Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Ladar Gravelazi, and coming up in today's newscast. All the latest on Israel's counterattack against the Islamic Republic. New details emerge on the targets of the strike. The Biden administration is reportedly set to place sanctions on an IDF unit for the first time. And Jews around the world are preparing to celebrate the Passover holiday. New details are emerging following the alleged Israeli counterattack Friday on the Islamic Republic of Iran. New satellite imagery and reports indicate that Israel was able to send a very precise and very clear message to Tehran. Think twice before attacking us again. Israel and Iran appear to have backed down from all-out war as Israel mounted a precise counterattack, striking Iranian Air Force assets inside the country in the early hours of Friday. The counterstrike was in response to the Islamic Republic's unprecedented attack, which saw over 300 suicide drones and missiles fired into Israel, which, with the help of an international coalition of the US, UK, France, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, was able to successfully intercept 99% of the threats. This marked the first time the Islamic Republic directly attacked Israel from its soil, rather than through its terror proxies throughout the Middle East. And while little is known about the alleged Israeli counterstrike, new reports and satellite images are emerging, providing more details of the attack. According to the New York Times, the strike used an advanced high-tech missile that was able to evade Iran's radar systems near the Natanz nuclear site. Iran reportedly did not detect any intrusions in its airspace throughout the attack. The move, according to Western officials, was meant to show Tehran that Israel is able to penetrate its airspace undetected and neutralize its defenses, primarily Russian-made S-300 air defense systems. Additionally, Iran International, which published satellite images of the attack on Sunday, found that Israel also targeted a central part of the S-300 air defense system at the Iranian airbase in Isfahan. While Israel has yet to officially take responsibility for the attack, it has said a counterstrike is necessary to ensure the Islamic Republic understand it cannot launch attacks without repercussions. Jerusalem was looking for a response that would not escalate tensions and lead to all-out war. And as such, Friday's limited yet precise response sent a clear message that Iran should think twice before attacking Israel again.
Israel Bonds, the heartbeat of solidarity, the powerhouse of support. When the Hamas-Israel war hit, Israel Bonds stood tall, proving we're more than just an investment, we're a lifeline. Investing in Israel Bonds isn't just a financial move, it's a declaration for resilience, strength, and a better future for Israel. Join us and let solidarity echo through generations.
And the Biden administration is reportedly set to announce sanctions against an IDF battalion in the coming days in a move that has caught Jerusalem by surprise. This, as the U.S. House of Representatives voted by an overwhelming majority to pass a $26 billion aid package to Israel. All the details in the following report. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is reportedly expected to announce sanctions against the IDF Netzach Yehuda battalion in the next few days, according to a report by Axios. The Netzach Yehuda battalion was initially established as a special military unit for ultra-Orthodox, but over the years also included right-wing youth who were not enlisted in other IDF units. If the sanctions are put in place, it would mark the first time the U.S. government would impose sanctions on an Israeli military unit. According to the report, the move is a result of alleged human rights violations against Palestinians in Judea and Samaria. They would prohibit the transfer of U.S. military aid to the battalion and would prevent its soldiers from taking part in training with the U.S. military and receiving American funding. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to the report and said such a move at a time when Israeli soldiers are fighting the monsters of terror, The intention to impose sanctions was the height of absurdity and a moral low. He added that in recent weeks he has been working against the imposition of sanctions on Israeli citizens, including in his conversations with senior American government officials, and said that his government would act by all means against these moves. And meanwhile, the United States House of Representatives voted on Saturday with broad bipartisan support to pass a $95 billion package, providing security assistance to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. The bill includes nearly $61 billion in aid for Ukraine, while Israel would receive $26 billion, including some $9.1 billion, which is geared for humanitarian needs, including for Gaza. The vote for aid to Israel passed by an overwhelming majority of 366 to 58 against. The legislation will now proceed to the Senate, where it's expected to pass the Democratic majority, and then to the White House for President Biden to sign into law. Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple. And speaking of aid to Israel, last Saturday night, while Iranian drones and missiles were still on their way in an unprecedented attack on Israel, Israel Bonds initiated a special worldwide campaign in support of the Jewish state. Since 1951, Israel Bonds has generated over $52 billion in worldwide sales to help in the building and development of every sector of Israel's economy, enabling Israel's great achievements, including shooting down this first-ever assault by Iran. And so joining us now is Dani Naveh, President and CEO of Israel Bonds. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So firstly, could you share with us how investments through Israel Bonds support the state of Israel and why people should invest now given the current security situation?
Yeah, I would do that by referring to the last weekend. Israel Air Force great success in defending the state of Israel from the Iranian attack is probably a result of decades of preparations and planning in technology, human resources, the military. And Israel Bonds, during the years, has played an integral part in giving the state of Israel the financials that enable that preparation and planning. So every Israel Bonds investor can take pride by knowing that you played a role in achieving that great success during the last weekend.
And let's talk also about October 7th. What has Israel Bonds been able to do to help support Israeli society after these murderous attacks?
Since October 7th, we started a special campaign of support for the state of Israel at war. And I can tell you that we have achieved enormous and very impressive results. We have raised since October 7th around $3 billion globally for the state of Israel, which is almost three times our annual results during the years prior to October 7th. So the Israeli economy, as we know, support the war efforts, the civilian and the military ones, and Israel Bonds plays an important part in providing the state of Israel the financial that it needs to face its adversaries. And if we take a look at next week, with your permission, so we are going to say at the Haggadah, "V'higadat lebincha bayom hahu," you shall tell your children. And I would like to say it in a different way. Looking ahead, our children and maybe grandchildren will ask us, during those days, dark days for the state of Israel, what you did for the state of Israel at risk. And if you are an Israel Bonds investor, you can proudly will be able to say, I provided the state of Israel, our beloved Jewish homeland, the funds, the financials to support Israel and to make it more secure and safe.
And so for those thinking of getting involved, I mean, what are some of the current investment opportunities?
Well, there are great opportunities today. If you go just to israelbonds.com, and if you don't have an account, you can open an account. If you have already an account, you can just make a purchase. And we have strong yields that can bring you on most of our products more than 5% yields. So you can secure Israel with very strong rates these days. So it's not just an investment, which is very important to support the state of Israel, but it's also a very strong and steady fixed income as part of your portfolio.
You know, as you've mentioned, there's a major increase in investments worldwide post October 7th. I mean, why do you think that is? And what do Israel bonds symbolize for them?
I think that for many people, it symbolizes that at this time, the state of Israel does not stand alone. And the best and the most powerful and direct way to support the state of Israel with billions of dollars of financial requirements following the war is by making such an investment in Israel bonds. And every investment is important. Every investment can make an impact. So I call upon each and every one of you to make an investment today in Israel bonds, and by that express your support for the Jewish homeland.
And so how can our viewers, people watching, invest in Israel today?
It's very simple. You can do it online. If you already have an Israel Bonds account, you can just go to israelbonds.com and make a purchase. If you don't have an account, you can go to israelbonds.com, open an account, and following that, make a purchase. And we have a variety of bonds, variety of products, variety of maturities. As I've said, today you can get on most of Israel Bonds products, you can get more than 5% yields. So it's very simple, very easy, and you can do it today.
All right, Dani Naveh, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, and Chag Sameach.
And in other news, Hamas leaders are reportedly considering leaving Qatar and are exploring their options, one of which is a NATO ally, seeking to be protected under Turkey's wing. ILTV's Rachel Safdie has the report.
Halidar. Well, yesterday we saw a meeting in between Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh and Turkey's President Erdogan in Istanbul. And this comes at a very interesting time after, Qatari Prime Minister said that Qatar is reevaluating their position as mediators in the hostage ceasefire talks. And this comes after a lot of American and Israeli pressure on Qatar to get Hamas to sign a deal. We need to know that Hamas's leaders have resided in Qatar since 2012. And there's been a lot of pressure on Qatar, and reports even say that Qatar threatened Hamas leaders that they will not have a place to reside in if they don't get a deal signed. And that's what we're seeing now. Reports say Hamas leaders have reached out to 2 countries. One of them is Oman, asking for residence. And now we see Ismail Haniyeh meeting with Turkey's Erdogan in Istanbul. What's also important to note is that last week, after the announcement of Qatar that they're reevaluating their role as mediators, Erdogan sent his foreign minister to Qatar, most probably to also, request a role as a mediator, which Israel would most probably never accept. As you know, Israeli-Turkish relationships have only deteriorated since the beginning of this war. Turkey's president has called Israel a terrorist state, has called Hamas a liberation group, as we see in their meeting yesterday in Istanbul. And so this just goes to show we might be seeing a change, a shift in roles. We might be seeing Qatar stepping down as mediators, and we might see Hamas leaders moving to Turkey.
Thank you, Rachel. And now Jews around the world are getting ready to celebrate Passover. It's a holiday that marks the liberation of the Jewish people and passing over of the forces of destruction. And this year, in the midst of the war for Israel's survival, this holiday takes on an even more important meaning. Joining us now to discuss the significance of the holiday is founding rabbi at the Tel Aviv International Synagogue, Rabbi Ariel Constantine. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here with you.
So, Rabbi, what exactly are we celebrating on Passover?
Passover celebrates the really the foundation, the forming of the Jewish people when we left Egypt. We were slaves in Egypt, enslaved by Pharaoh about 3,500 years ago. And God sent a savior named Moses, who instituted 10 plagues against Egypt after insisting, let my people go, let them be free, let them worship freely, and reach the promised land. Pharaoh refused in his obstinacy and brought upon plague after plague on Egypt. Even the Egyptians were begging him to let us go until finally he agreed, he acquiesced, and we were sent out. We were allowed to leave Egypt. And then even after we left, he pursued us afterwards, and leading up to the splitting of the Red Sea, we crossed through, and the seas collapsed on the Egyptians. And finally, we knew we were free people and can proceed on to Mount Sinai, receive our law, and continue on to the promised land.
And so what are some of the symbols of this holiday? I mean, we have the Passover plate, but what exactly does it signify?
Passover plate is a number of different elements that represent the holiday. For example, we have the shank bone, which represents the Passover lamb that we had sacrificed in Egypt. It was an Egyptian god, and it was a symbol of God being the God of us all, and other gods and idols have no power. And that became a symbol of national unity. After leaving Egypt, every year we would offer a Passover lamb. We don't have the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, so we have a symbolic piece representing that Passover lamb. We have an egg that also represents another sacrifice that was the main meal, and the egg represents rebirth. As the Jewish people were born, as we mentioned at the time when we left Egypt, and it's in the spring. So springtime is the time where nature is reborn, so it's about the rebirth of our people. We have the maror, the bitter herbs, representing the pain of slavery and the suffering that our people endured during our slavery in Egypt. And they were killing baby boys and infants inside, and things which were truly horrific as we were slaves. So that represents the bitterness that we experienced. The charoset represents the mortar of the bricks that we were forced to build the cities of Egypt. And the karpas, which is a green vegetable that also represents our freedom, because it's green, is the springtime, where we come out of Egypt and have an opportunity for new life. We dip those green herbs into salt water, representing the tears of the slaves. So again, there's symbols of the pain and hardship and our humble beginnings, as well as the rebirth of the Jewish people and the ability to become a free nation.
Mm-hmm. And rebirth. So Passover is also known in Israel as a holiday of springtime, time of rebirth. And so what are some of the traditions of the holiday?
Well, we have the big one is the Seder, where we sit down, the whole family gets together, and we have that Seder play with all those symbols. And we read through what's called a Haggadah, which tells the story of Egypt. We drink 4 cups of wine, representing your freedom. We even drink it in a way that we lean. Even though once upon a time we used to sit as Romans used to lean on couches when they ate. So today we sit at tables, so we kind of lean to the left. It's a little bit of a different experience, not as comfortable as once upon a time. We want to represent as our freedom and not take it for granted. A lot of Jewish practice is to not take it for granted, but to appreciate the blessings of freedom that we have, that it comes often at a sacrifice, as we know right now, as we're struggling with the war and that freedom. I remember the Korean memorial in Washington says freedom is not free. And certainly we're learning that right now. So we want to have appreciation for what we have and not take for granted our freedom and our rights. And therefore we tell the story, and we also give thanks. We give thanks. We said if we weren't freed, if our ancestors weren't free, then we wouldn't be free. So we want to express that appreciation to God for having taken us out of Egypt and giving us the nationhood.
Especially today. And what about the symbol of Passover, matzah?
Matzah, interestingly enough, represents both sides of the spectrum. Matzah is known as lechem oni, which is poor man's bread. It's bread that didn't rise. So it represents, first of all, humility, that we had humble beginnings, and we should also not forget our humble beginnings as we grow and become successful and affluent. Remember, we came from humble beginnings, and to treat others who are less fortunate than us with the same kind of respect and dignity and help them raise themselves up. So why Jews are often activists in civil rights movements, because we understand where we came from and we want to help others achieve the same goals. And so it's very lowly, very humble, and it represents lacking of ego, because when the bread rises, it represents haughtiness. So it reminds us of those humble beginnings. And also, we were forced out so quickly, we had to bake the bread on our backs, and we're rushing out in the Egyptian sun. So that matzah ends up representing the holiday of Passover, but also represents in the end our freedom, because we baked that bread as we left Egypt to freedom.
And freedom, this year the holiday takes on a special meaning. We still have 133 hostages being held in Gaza, as we hope to see them liberated and brought home now in time to celebrate this beautiful holiday. Rabbi Constantine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Our pleasure, and we wish a happy holiday to all of your viewers. And we suggest and recommend that at your Seder, save a seat for the hostages and say a prayer for them, so that next year they can be seated at our tables, and all of them should be free and come home safe and sound.
And as Israelis prepare to celebrate Passover, ILTV's Ariel Alehiani hit the streets of Tel Aviv to hear from Israelis about their Seder plans and the special significance of the holiday this year. Let's take a look.
Hi Lidar, yes, I'm here in Tel Aviv today, and tomorrow, as we all know, is the beginning of Passover, and though we are in a war and we are still waiting for the return of over 130 hostages, you can for sure still feel the holiday spirit in Tel Aviv. So I'm here to speak to a few people and see what they're getting up to this Passover.
Tomorrow night we're going all the family to go to the Pesach, and we wish all the people coming from Gaza to coming from our home ahead. The door is open for everybody, for all Jewish people.
I will go to my grandma with all the family. We will sit together, we will read the Haggadah, we'll have fun, and we will celebrate our freedom.
We'll go to friends of my mother. I thought at the beginning to not celebrate because it's very sad here with all the situation we're going through. But we said we'll do something like more solid, just to have some holiday feeling in us.
Kebab. The mixed bread.
I like to find afikoman. They say that if you find a afikoman, you take a piece of it, and you put it on in the wallet, and that will bring good fortune in work.
Oh, it's the afikoman. When you are looking for the afikoman, and after that you get a gift from your grandpa. It's very nice. Free gifts.
Could have everyone come to your Seder tomorrow night. Who would it be? Anyone in the world?
Probably my mom, because I was supposed to go home for the holidays, and now I'm here, so I miss her. That'd be so sweet.
All the people that is kidnapped by Hamas, the freedom.
All the people from Gaza. I wish they come in today, not tomorrow.
Am Israel Chai, which literally translates to Am, the people, Israel, of Israel, Chai, alive, or the people of Israel are alive, is a very significant phrase, especially today. And so ILTV's correspondent Yuval David recently visited the Israeli parliament to hear from Israel's Knesset members and ministers what this phrase means to them. Let's take a look.
Meeting with members of parliament here at the Knesset in Israel, in Jerusalem, is going to be a very interesting experience. Let's find out what they say. There's a famous expression that we've been using for a long time, and that is Am Yisrael Chai. Has that expression changed for you since October 7th?
On the contrary, Am Yisrael Chai even stronger. I would say that on the 7th of October we had an accident. There was a page in our history that was never supposed to be written. This was like a huge slap we got, a huge box if you want, but on the contrary, I think we woke up, and I hope that this time forever.
Am Yisrael Chai זה ערבות הדדית. זה אחד שדואג לשני, לא תמיד מכירים, לא תמיד זוכרים, אבל תמיד ביחד.
It really means the survival of our people and our identity for generations and generations throughout so many difficult periods of times, throughout so many atrocities that we've been through so many times.
I think this expression connects us as a nation all around the world and also all around history.
The new meaning is that we're not losing hope. That in the end, in spite of all the atrocities and the war and the catastrophe, We insist to raise our children and grandchildren here. We insist to create a better reality for Israelis, and that we're not willing to give up on our hope to make Israel stronger and to achieve peace.
I'm Israel Chai. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with lows of around 13 degrees Celsius or 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll get clear skies alongside steady top temperatures, seeing highs of about 13 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channel, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and don't forget to check out our website, ILTV.tv, with all the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I am Ladar Gravelazi. Be well, happy Passover, and thank you so much for watching.